Okay, picture this. The dawn of the Middle Ages. You've got two absolute titans colliding. On one side, the razor-sharp logic of ancient Greece. On the other, the powerful new faith of Christianity. Now, their meeting, it wasn't just some stuffy philosophical debate. No, this was the very moment that shaped the Western mind as we know it. So, what do you do? What do you do when what you believe in your heart completely clashes with what you can prove with your mind? Well, that's the puzzle we're going to try to solve today. Let's dive in. And this image, wow, it just perfectly captures the dilemma, right? You're at a crossroads. One path is labeled reason. That's the world of logic, evidence, and proof. The other path, faith. The world of revelation, of belief, of things you feel are true. But here's the thing. The question wasn't just, okay, which path should I pick? Oh no. The real struggle, the one that lasted for 1,000 years, was figuring out if these two very different paths could, somehow, lead to the same place. So for those first Christian thinkers, this wasn't some fun, abstract puzzle. This was a full-blown crisis. I mean, just imagine it. You're trying to build a whole new worldview, one based entirely on divine revelation. But at the same time, you're living in the shadow of absolute giants, Plato, Aristotle, guys who built their entire systems on the idea that human reason, and reason alone, is the key to all truth. So, how on earth are those two worlds supposed to coexist? And here's where we get right to the heart of the conflict, something the historian Etienne Gilson really nailed. Greek philosophy, its whole goal was to understand the world as it is. A system of cause and effect, how nature works. It was all about necessity. But Christianity, that was a religion of salvation. Its goal was all about a person's ultimate destiny, about their freedom to choose a path that leads them there. So you see, they weren't just giving different answers. They were literally asking completely different questions. They weren't even playing the same game.
And this really shows you the two competing forces that were basically battling for the soul of Europe. On one side, you have that restless, searching human mind, always questioning, never happy with an easy answer. And on the other, you have the calm certainty of faith, of divine revelation, which promises answers to all the biggest questions in life. It's the push and pull, the tension between these two ideas that would fuel the next 1,000 years of intellectual history.
We always hear this period called the Dark Ages. It kind of brings up images of superstition and ignorance, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that nothing could be further from the truth. This era was actually buzzing, absolutely electric, with intense intellectual debate, and it was all focused on one of the toughest questions you can possibly ask. How do you make what you believe in your soul line up with what you can actually prove with your brain?
So why was this debate so incredibly urgent all of a sudden? Well, it wasn't just about abstract ideas in a book. It was about power, real-world power. The entire political map of the world was shifting under their feet, and this massive change was about to force the issue. Let's take a look at how the stage was set for this epic showdown.
I mean, the speed of this change is it's staggering. Think about this. In the year 313, with the Edict of Milan, Christianity goes from being this persecuted underground minority to a perfectly legal religion. Okay, huge step. But then, get this, just 67 years later, a single lifetime, it becomes the official state religion of the entire Roman Empire. In less than 70 years, it rocketed from the absolute margins of society right to the very center of power. It's incredible.
And just like that, all of a sudden, Christianity wasn't just a personal faith anymore. It was the official ideology of the most powerful empire on the planet. And what that means is it had to be defined. It had to be defended. It had to be explained, especially when you put it up against the centuries-old, rock-solid traditions of Greek philosophy. The entire Roman world, from Britain to Egypt, became this massive intellectual arena.
Okay, so in response to this huge challenge, the most influential early Christian thinkers, we often call them the Church Fathers, came up with three totally distinct strategies. Each one was a different attempt to solve this massive faith versus reason puzzle.
All right, solution number one, championed by guys like Justin Martyr, was basically this: absorb the competition. It was a really clever argument. They said, look, Plato and all those other Greek geniuses, they weren't really original. What they were doing was catching these little imperfect glimpses of a divine truth that's been around since the dawn of time, a truth that was only fully revealed in Christianity. So in this view, philosophy isn't a rival to faith at all. It's more like an accidental warm-up act. Okay, the second approach, which we call Gnosticism, went in the complete opposite direction. Instead of Christianity absorbing philosophy, the Gnostics tried to turn Christianity into a philosophy. For them, salvation wasn't about having faith. It was about getting your hands on a special secret kind of knowledge, they called it gnosis, that would let your soul break free from the prison of this corrupt material world. So for them, reason didn't just help faith, it completely replaced it.
But this approach ran into some major problems. It clashed head-on with some core Christian beliefs. I mean, if the material world is evil, then how could a good God have created it? And maybe even more importantly, why on earth would a divine being choose to become human, to take on a physical body? These were huge contradictions, and because of them, Gnosticism was eventually labeled a heresy and rejected.
But then, a third way started to emerge, and it came from the intellectual hotspot of the ancient world, Alexandria. The thinkers there proposed a powerful synthesis. They argued that the true Christian isn't someone who has to choose between faith or reason. No, the ideal was to embrace both. So here's the key idea from the Alexandrians, and it's a big one. They said philosophy's job isn't to prove that faith is true. Its job is to help believers understand their faith on a deeper level. And they found this perfect bridge between the two worlds, the Greek idea of the logos. You can think of the logos as a kind of universal divine reason. They said this logos is the creative force behind everything, the source of all wisdom, whether it comes from a philosopher or a prophet, and it's the very principle of salvation. And since we humans have free will, our own reason becomes this vital tool that helps us choose the right path toward that salvation.
Now, this balanced approach from Alexandria, it was absolutely revolutionary, a total game changer. It didn't just solve the problem for a little while, it literally set the entire intellectual agenda for the next 1,000 years of Western philosophy.
Think about it. All the heavy hitters of medieval philosophy, we're talking Augustine, Aquinas, all of them, they were all working inside the framework that these early church fathers built. They spent their lives wrestling with the exact same big questions that were put on the table back in Alexandria. What is the nature of God? Why was the world created? What does it mean to have free will? And, of course, that original defining question, what is the relationship between what we believe and what we can prove?
And believe it or not, that brings us right back to our own time. Yeah, the words we use have changed. We might talk about science versus spirituality, or data versus intuition. But the fundamental question, it's exactly the same. In our own modern way, aren't we still standing at that very same crossroads, trying to figure out how to make faith and reason walk down the same path? It's something to think about, isn't it?